Man, these last 2 years have been pretty wild. I still don't think anyone was expecting Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to get DLC, especially not 5 years after it released, but in 2023 Nintendo just decided, nah, you're not getting Mario Kart 9 just yet. Instead, we're gonna double the size of the game that we already have. And of course, this started speculation on what courses we'd be getting in this DLC. Something that I was a little bit late to, but still got there in the end. Honestly, all this reminds me of back in the Smash Ultimate days, how hyped people were for DLC, waiting every single Nintendo Direct just to see what we would get. I might even go so far as to say I think the Booster Course Pass as an overall package is better than both Smash Ultimate Fighter passes combined, but that's up to interpretation. But now, let's go through the Booster Course Pass wave by wave and see just exactly what made it so good. And for the first 3 waves, because those didn't get their own dedicated videos, I'm going to spend a lot more time on them and include some rapid-fire course rankings at the end of those sections. I think we can all agree that Wave 1 was a bit of a rough start for the Booster Course Pass. For a lot of people, it was their first introduction into Mario Kart Tour courses, and while there are some pretty good ones in there, they didn't choose the best ones to start off with. The retro picks were also pretty interesting in this wave. We had some fan favorites with Sky Garden and Coconut Mall. We had Shroom Ridge, which was an absolute wild card. It wouldn't even be added to Tour until almost a year later. Chakra Mountain, just kinda here. Toad Circuit didn't need to be here. And on top of that, we got this absolute abomination of a new course. I still remember the biggest complaint people had about the DLC at the time was the graphics. Imagine playing Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. It is one of the best looking games on the console. Whether a course is a Nitro or a Retro, it looks amazing. And then it gets DLC on a better console, and it looks like this. People were rightfully upset. Now, I've always been more of a gameplay over graphics kind of guy, but come on, Nintendo. Look at the base game and look at this. There's such a massive difference that it straight up turned some people away from the DLC initially. There were also the gameplay issues people had with it, such as the removal of Coconut Mall's cars moving at the end, and the vast oversimplification of Sky Garden's layout. Now, neither of these things really were a huge deal for me. Heck, I know some people hate the new Sky Garden. It's my second favorite course of the wave. And Coconut Mall is still Coconut Mall. Definitely a strange choice to not have the cars move in Coconut Mall. Especially considering, like with Sunset Wilds that had a feature removed, the feature was still there in Tour. At least this time though, Nintendo fixed it with a patch. This wave also introduced what is in my opinion the most mixed quality cup in the entire game, the Lucky Cat Cup. We have 2 really good courses, heck, my 2 favorites of the wave, but the problem is they are sandwiched between not only the 2 worst courses of the wave, but 2 of my picks in the bottom 3 of the entire game. But for that, let's jump on over to the Wave 1 course scores. Now, last place here really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who watches the streams, because I hate on this course a lot over there. I've only sort of hinted towards it every now and then on YouTube, but yeah, with an absolutely abysmal score of a -1 out of 10, we have Ninja Hideaway, my pick for the undisputed worst course in this entire game. There is genuinely nothing about this course that I find enjoyable, even in the slightest. Next up, we have the 2 out of 10s. And yes, there is more than one. Tokyo Blur and Toad Circuit. Tokyo Blur, I think, is easily the worst tour course. There's just nothing going on here. There's like 2 thwomps and a single off-road shortcut. Apart from that, nothing. As for Toad Circuit, I think it was a waste of a DLC slot, especially with how just awful it looked on release. Even now, it still doesn't look too much better. Okay, now that we're done with the garbage, we can get to an actually kind of decent course. Only a 6 out of 10 still, but it's Paris Promenade. I think it served its purpose fine as an introduction to the tour courses, but apart from that, it's nothing too special. Next up, joining the 7 out of 10 club, we have Choco Mountain. I don't really have too much to say about this one, apart from I really like its new music, and it was just nice to see again, because we haven't really seen this course since DS. Next up, at 8 out of 10, which is a surprisingly low score for this course, we have Coconut Mall. Still the same Coconut Mall we all know and love, but the car's not moving initially, and the escalators just being conveyor belts now makes it lose a few points in my eyes. And for the top 2 of the wave, both sitting at a 9 out of 10, it's Sky Garden and Shroom Ridge. Sky Garden, my only real complaint with is they definitely could have put some anti-gravity in there somewhere. I don't know, maybe raise up that turn before the glider, have that be anti-gravity, who knows. Shroom Ridge was a real surprise though. This course was super forgettable on the DS, but here in 8 Deluxe, it is easily the best course of Wave 1. And that's not even mentioning the fact that both of these courses got amazing new pieces of music. Ultimately, I think Wave 1 was a bit of a rough start for the Booster Course Pass, but you know what? If we didn't get this wave, we wouldn't have gotten all the others, which, hey, you know what? It's only really uphill from here, right? Right off the bat, I would say Wave 2 was a definite upgrade from Wave 1. Granted, its highs weren't as high, but its lows weren't as low either. I think that where Wave 1 brought about a few major issues, Wave 2 instead brings about many smaller issues. The course selection this time around is also a lot more solid, with only one real exception to that. Let's talk about Mario Circuit 3. Mario Circuit 3 is, in my opinion, the nepo baby of the Mario Kart franchise. It does nothing and it keeps getting to appear. It is tied with SNES Rainbow Road for the most recurring course in the entire series. But at least Rainbow Road deserves it because that course is unique. There are 3 other SNES Mario circuits that we could have gotten instead of this. Personally, I would have loved to have seen Mario Circuit 4 come back, considering it's the only one of them that's never been remade. It never even got into Tour either, so its chances of getting in here were pretty low, but it's a Mario circuit. They could have made it pretty easily. I also just think that this is actually the worst looking course in the entire game. Apart from that, basically everything I said about Toad Circuit applies here too. There was no reason to bring this course back over literally anything else. Honestly, they barely even did anything with the music for this course. A trait that is unfortunately shared with the 2 fan favorite retros of the wave, Waluigi Pinball and Mushroom Gorge. Mushroom Gorge ended up joining the Barely Even Got New Music Club, along with DK Jungle, Grumble Volcano, and Neo Bowser City. As for Waluigi Pinball, it just straight up didn't get new music. It is the only course in the game, I guess also with Wario Stadium, to share music now. There's a reason that I'm using the Smash remix here, and not the 8 Deluxe version. While still very good, that was made more so for Wario Stadium, so it, at least in my opinion, it doesn't fit Waluigi Pinball as well. It's still very good. But you couldn't have just maybe even thrown this in there, Nintendo. You already have music made for this course. If you're gonna reuse it, throw the Smash remix in there, and heck, do that for Mario Circuit 3 too. But that's enough negativity. In my eyes, the real high point of this wave was the absolutely incredible glow-up given to GBA Snowland. They took that course from a real eyesore back on the GBA to one of the better GBA courses in this game. Not even accounting for the fact that we have actual elevation now, even if only slight, and unlike most of the other GBA remakes, the layout is basically completely intact. Slap some decent visuals for the Booster Course Pass standards at the time at least, and a very good new music remix, and yeah, you have a perfectly good remaster. This wave also brought about a pretty fun new course in Sky High Sundae. 2 alright city courses. I think I prefer them a little bit more than the last 2 at least. Kalimari Desert got a pretty interesting remake, I guess is the word I'll use to describe it. And Mushroom Gorge is just kinda here. I don't have too much to say about that one. A lot of this wave, I would say, is just kind of mediocre, with the exception of the standout success of Snowland and standout failure of Mario Circuit 3. But with that, let's jump to the course rankings. In last place, to nobody's surprise with a score of 2 out of 10, is Mario Circuit 3. I think I summed up my thoughts on that course pretty well earlier. The next batch of courses are at least a little bit better. Jumping up to a 6 out of 10, we have Kalimari Desert and New York Minute. New York, I think, is pretty simple, all things considered, but I give it some slack considering it was the first tour course. As for Kalimari Desert, I like the changes that it got, but I still don't really care about it. Up to 7 out of 10s now, we have Mushroom Gorge, Sky High Sundae, and Sydney Sprint. Mushroom Gorge, I kind of realized is overrated because of the Booster Course Pass. Not to say it's not good, I like the new shortcut they added at the beginning, but with so many other really good courses in this game, it just doesn't stand out too much anymore. Sky High Sundae, I feel, is incredibly overhated. I don't know why people started hating it all of a sudden out of nowhere, but I still think it's a lot of fun. And Sydney Sprint was definitely a step in the right direction for city courses in 8 Deluxe. And rounding out the wave with the 8 out of 10s, we have the, again surprisingly low given its track record, Waluigi Pinball, and the standout winner of the wave, Snowland. Waluigi Pinball, I think even with its musical issues aside, is one of the biggest missed potentials when it comes to anti-gravity in the DLC, as they could have done something here. And Snowland, I think I summed up my thoughts on pretty well earlier. At the end of the day, Wave 2 was really the definition of mid. Half the courses were just completely mediocre with one standout failure, one major improvement, but overall nothing too special here. Alright, now Wave 3, this is where things start getting really good. We got 7 really good courses. We had the nerf to lightning, we had custom items, half pipes are back, and an entire new stat? What's going on here? Not to mention, this is the wave that also broke most predictions early on because they broke the prefix leak. Yeah, in case you didn't know, Waluigi Stadium was supposed to be in Wave 3, but for one reason or another, it got pushed back to Wave 4, and Maple Treeway got moved forward from Wave 6. A couple other courses got scrambled around too, but I think the release order that we got was just fine. Now, you may have noticed earlier that I said we got 7 pretty good courses, not 8. That's because London Loop exists. On release, this course was actually in contention for my pick for the worst course in the game, but honestly, I don't think anything's going lower than Ninja Hideaway. London Loop is definitely still in my bottom 5, though. Honestly, the only other course-related complaint I really have with this wave is I just wish there was something going on at the end of Merry Mountain, instead of it just being a straight line down. They could have at least put some snowmen or something there, come on. Initially, I also wasn't the biggest fan of Peach Gardens changing the third lap for seemingly no reason, but it's grown on me, and now I think it's pretty neat. It's great to see retro courses are getting some anti-gravity now, too. Yeah, last wave we had it in Sky High Sundae, but that's a nitro, same with Merry Mountain this wave. I'm more focused on the fact that Boo Lake and 3DS Rainbow Road have anti-gravity now. Also, fun fact, Boo Lake is the first course since Piranha Plant Slide in the base game 8 years ago to actually feature underwater driving. This wave was also definitely an upgrade visually, as, with the exception of the cliffs in Rock Rock Mountain, the entire thing looks at least decent, which is more than I can say for some courses in the first two waves. Alright, ranking time now. In last place with a 2 out of 10, to nobody's surprise, is London Loop. I mentioned earlier this course was in contention for my pick for worst in the entire game on release, and while I don't think it's that bad now, anything that was that low initially, a 2 out of 10 is still generous, but it has more going for it than Tokyo Blur at least. It's all much better from here though. Up next at a 7 out of 10 is Peach Gardens. Like Calamari Desert, I don't really think the alternate lap routing for lap 3 was necessary, but it was an interesting change, I'll give it that. Up next we have the 8 out of 10s consisting of Rock Rock Mountain, Berlin Byways, Merry Mountain, and Boo Lake. Rock Rock Mountain was one of my favorite courses back in Mario Kart 7, and it's a shame to see it get dragged down to an 8 out of 10 by altered gliding physics and kinda the Booster Course Pass graphics. Berlin Byways is a very nice city course actually. I'm surprised it's the only one with traffic. You'd think a couple more would have had it, but no, Berlin's the only one, and it works though. Music is also great, already was in Tour, made even better in 8 Deluxe. Merry Mountain, again, they just needed something in that end section to spice it up a little, and it would have been great. It's also weird having the new course of the wave be the third in a cup and not ending it, but maybe that's just me. And Boo Lake, like I already mentioned earlier, they've been knocking it out of the park with the GBA remakes so far. Next up, at 10 out of 10, we have Maple Treeway. Stepping up when Waluigi Stadium couldn't make it in 3 waves earlier than it was planned. There's nothing wrong with this course, it's Maple Treeway, come on. And finally, did you really expect 3DS Rainbow Road to get anything but an 11 out of 10? Come on, it was already the best Rainbow Road in the series, and they made it even better here. Wave 3 was definitely a turning point of some kind for the Booster Course Pass. The course selections started getting better, the visuals started to improve just a bit, we started to get actual bonus features on top of the 8 courses. At this point, yeah, the Booster Course Pass was getting ready to pop off, and it really did in the second half. Now as we move into that second half, I just want to mention these next sections are going to be a lot shorter because I have already done full in-depth video reviews of Waves 4, 5, and 6. If you want to check those out, they'll be in the description. What I'm going to be doing with those waves here, mainly, is just updating my scores because my thoughts on some of these courses have changed a decent amount. Alright, Wave 4. This is still probably my favorite wave of the entire Booster Course Pass, considering the quality of the courses we got, which courses we got, and just the fact that they started giving us characters here now too. And a couple balance changes, but I don't care as much for those. Now let's throw my scores from the Wave 4 review video up on screen real quick because there's a couple changes that I want to make here. Off the bat, I think I was being a little bit too nostalgic for Mario Kart DS. I don't think Mario Circuit from that game deserves an 8 out of 10. I'm gonna bump it down to a 7, like it probably should be. But on the other hand, looking back on it, I think Singapore Speedway does deserve a 10 out of 10 after all. Now that's all I've got to change score-wise, but there's a couple other things I just want to mention as well. Now that the entire Booster Course Pass is out, and has been for a little while now, I've had some time to let my opinions on these things simmer, and yeah, Wave 4 is easily the best one in terms of courses. There's not a single bad course here, even the mediocre ones are still a lot of fun to play on. Like I said in my initial review, still the only thing in this wave that I actually find bad is Amsterdam's music. Everything else is very nice. But beyond changing those 2 scores, there's really not all that much that I have to say about Wave 4 that I didn't already cover in that initial video. So I guess now, let's move on to Wave 5. Now, Wave 5 was actually the first time I ever reviewed anything, and looking back on it, yeah, there are definitely a few things I would change. First things first, to Vancouver Velocity and Daisy Cruiser.
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Yes, Vancouver Velocity got screwed over in the routing department, but it's still a good course. Probably still my third or fourth favorite city course in Tour itself. And even here, it's still probably in the top 5. And Daisy Cruiser I've started to appreciate a lot more after I played Double Dash for the first time a month and a half or so ago, and yeah, it is so much better here than it is there. Honestly, this entire wave as a whole has grown on me over time. Throw the scores up real quick because I actually have a lot of changes to make here. Like I mentioned earlier, I have grown to like Daisy Cruiser and Vancouver Velocity a lot more. I've grown to like a lot of the courses this wave more, but it's especially apparent with those two. But they, as well as Los Angeles Laps, will all be moving from a 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Additionally, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Moonview Highway actually deserves a 9 out of 10 here. And Squeaky Clean Sprint, yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 course. And back in that Wave 5 review, I mentioned all Nintendo has to do to Sunset Wilds to bring it up to maybe a 7 out of 10 is just implement the sunset. Again, modders did that day one. But they didn't, so instead of moving up to a 7 out of 10, Sunset Wilds will instead be moving down to a 5 out of 10. If they really wanted to give us a GBA desert track, they should have just given us Yoshi Desert. And that's going to be it for the score changes for this wave. Koopa Cape and Athens Dash, they didn't really change too much in my eyes. But before we move on to Wave 6, I have a bit of an interesting story that I want to tell about this wave. The night before the wave was revealed, I actually had a dream about it being revealed, except I didn't quite get everything right. I didn't have Moonview Highway or Vancouver Velocity because I don't think anyone was expecting Moonview, and I didn't really think they would do a third city track this wave. In its place was Airship Fortress and, more interestingly, Piranha Plant Pipeline. Now, at this point, Pipeline hadn't even been revealed yet, or at least it hadn't been by the time I had gone to sleep. So imagine my surprise after having that dream, waking up in the morning, and the first two things that I see is that Wave 5 actually got revealed, and Piranha Plant Pipeline was revealed as a new course for Tour with the exact same image that was in my dream. So not only did my dream manifest the Wave 5 reveal, it also manifested the entire existence of Piranha Plant Pipeline, which, ironically enough, never even made it into 8 Deluxe. But that's just about all for Wave 5. Incredibly strong wave, actually, especially considering how much it's grown on me over time. Now let's see if anything's changed with Wave 6. Now for Wave 6. This was my most recent review, and like Wave 4, most of what I think about it hasn't really changed all that much. There's a couple minor changes, but unlike Waves 4 and 5, there's not actually any score changes. Let's still throw those up on the screen though, just as a reminder. Honestly, the only real opinion that I have that's changed between that review and now is the music for DK Mountain has grown on me a little bit. It still isn't my favorite, but I wouldn't call it bad. With that one exception, yeah, basically everything I said in my review video last month still holds up. Wave 6 is the better wave in terms of content, but Wave 4 still wins in terms of course selection. Again, if you want the full thoughts on those, you can go and watch that video, same with Waves 4 and 5, because I don't really have anything else to expand on here. Before we end off though, there is still one final ranking that I wanted to do here. Now, we're going to give the average scores for each wave. In last place with an average score of 5.25 is Wave 1. Not really surprising, considering that 2 of my bottom 3 courses in the entire game were part of this wave, and not to mention one of them literally has a negative score, but again, it's only uphill from there. Next up, with an average of 6.375, is Wave 2. Again, in my opinion, the most mediocre wave, with its two best courses still only really being an 8 out of 10. Next up is Wave 3, with an average of 7.75. Very good wave overall, just dragged down by one really bad course. Alright, we're going out of order now, finally. Wave 5 is up next with an average of 8.25. Overall, the second half of the Booster Course Pass was very good, but Wave 5 has the one course in that entire second half that I consider to be bad. And it's the only one of the waves without a 11 out of 10 course. Taking the silver medal with a very solid 8.5 out of 10 will be Wave 6. Again, a perfect finale for the Booster Course Pass, even if a few of the courses are just kind of okay. And in the top spot, to nobody's surprise, with an average score of 8.75 out of 10, is Wave 4. I don't really know what you were expecting. Yeah, sure, half the wave is mediocre, but the other half of the wave is at least a 10 out of 10. And that is my full review of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC. This has been probably, again, one of, if not the best DLCs Nintendo has ever done. It also means a lot to me personally, as it was through this DLC that I realized I really like making these more scripted prediction and review type videos. So expect a lot more of those in the future, whether it's Mario Kart or whatever else I feel like doing. But to end off this review by answering the question I posed in the title, is the Booster Course Pass worth it? Absolutely. If you are a fan of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and you somehow haven't already gotten this DLC, what are you waiting for? Now, I know there are also some people who would say, don't judge something or call it bad if you can't offer a better alternative. So, next time, I'll be sharing the changes that I would personally make to the Booster Course Pass to, at least in my opinion, make it even better. But if you're interested in how I think these courses stack up to the base game, or just my thoughts on the base game courses in general, you're in luck. Because February 16th, live on twitch.tv/Pokemichael, I will be ranking all 96 courses in the game and putting them into a single tier list. So if you're interested in that, come check it out. And that's all from me for today. I will see you guys next time.